Okay, welcome back to Mr. Quick's Flip class. I'm glad to have you. All right, today we're going to continue talking about line plots. All right, now we've already played with line plots a little bit. Now we're going to look at the kind of information that we can gather by looking at line plots. Okay, and you can see this: sad students, none; bored students, none; students who love math, all of them. Right? All right, let's jump right into it. 10 students measured their favorite books. Okay, they recorded it for their results below. All right, check it out. 2 students said their favorite book was 1 inch thick. 2 more students said 1.5 inches thick. 2 more students said 2 3/4 inches thick. 1 kid likes a 3-inch book. And then check this out. Big book readers here, right? 3.5 inches thick. 1, 2, 3 kids like really thick books. Okay? Now, does that tell us everything we need to know about the books? No, because we don't know. There might be a lot of pictures. There might be really thick font. We don't know, okay? And that's what discerning thinkers kind of think about. They say, does this data tell us everything we need to know? But it does tell us that these kids probably read some pretty thick books, because 3.5 inches is pretty big, all right? All right, what is the difference in length from the shortest and the longest book, okay? Well, we can figure that out using this information right here. We've got 3.5 inches here, okay? The longest book that anyone said they liked was 3.5 inches. The skinniest book that anyone said they liked was 1 inch, right? So the difference tells me subtraction. 3.5 minus 1 inch is going to be 2.5 inches, okay? That's the difference in length, all right? Let's move on. If you lined up the 1.5 inch books end to end, would they be longer than a 3-inch book? Well, let's see. How many 1.5 inch books do we have? We have 2. So I've got to figure out how long that would be, right? So I've got to take this kid's 1.5 inch book and add it to this kid's 1.5 inch book. Okay, I'm going to add them together. 1 plus 1 is 2. 1 plus 1 is 2. The denominator stays the same, so I've got 2 and 2 halves, which is what? 3, right? It's 2 and 1 other whole, right? There's my 2, there's my other whole, 3, right? 3 inches. Would they be longer than a 3-inch book? I don't even need to see how many kids have the 3-inch book. It's just asking you, would those 2 books be longer than a 3-inch book? Would they? No, they wouldn't be longer. They'd be the exact same amount. 1.5 plus 1.5 is 3. Is that longer than 3? No, it is 3, okay? How many books are shorter or thinner than 3 inches? We've got to go back to our line plot and check that out. In fact, I'm going to erase some of these numbers so they don't confuse us and get in the way, okay? Well, how many are shorter than 3 inches? Is 3 inches shorter than 3 inches? No, it's the same as 3 inches, so we can't count that. 2 3/4 inches, 2 3/4 inches. That is shorter, right? It's farther left, right? Just like our number line is farther left. How many kids? 1, 2. What about 1.5 inches? Is that shorter than 3? Of course it is. How many kids? 1, 2. So I've got 1, 2, 3, 4. How many books are shorter than 3 inches? On this line plot, there are 4 books shorter than 3 inches, okay? If you found another 3.5 inch book and laid them end to end, how long would they be? Well, if we found another kid who said their favorite book was 3.5 inches, we'd have to add him up here, right? Or add her up here, okay? So now I've got 3.5 inches, 3.5 inches, 3.5 inches, 3.5 inches, okay? Got to add them together, right? It's not hard, but we got to do it. 3, 6, 9, 12. 1/2 and 1/2 is 1. 1/2 and 1/2 is 2. Right? 12 plus 2. 14 inches if you laid them all end to end. Okay? Now I hope you're starting to see how even though this is a very simple graph, it's giving us all kinds of information. And we can glean a whole bunch of information from it. Okay? What is the difference between the books shorter than 2 inches and the ones longer than 2 inches? Okay? Well, first of all, this is 2 3/4 inches, right? Okay? 2 inches would be somewhere between 1.5 and 2 3/4. Okay? Here's what you would have to do. 1.5 plus 1.5 is 3. We already did that. So the 2 books that are shorter than 2 inches are 3 inches total. Over here, I'm going to erase this X because we just kind of added it on. We have 2 books that are 2 3/4 inches. One book that is 3 inches long, or 3 inches thick, and then 3 books that are 3 1/2 inches. I know that's a lot of information, but guess what? You're watching a video. Rewind it, right? Play it again, okay? Here's what I want you to do. I want you to figure out the difference. So you're gonna have to add up all 3 of these and how many of them there are. So 3 1/2, 3 1/2, 3 1/2, plus 3, plus 2 3/4, plus 2 3/4, okay? That sounds tricky, but what have we learned in this unit that could help you do this kind of math? You can use your ruler, right? Okay, so do that. Subtract our 3 that we've already figured out. Bring that tomorrow. Anyone who brings it tomorrow gets a Panther Pride, okay? If you have it right, all right? And if you don't have it right, we'll go over it in class, okay? I hope you've seen that line plots can give us a lot of information, and it's just a matter of reading them. Well, we're going to be reading them a lot over the next few days, so you are masters of looking at the information, pulling information, and being able to use the information. I'll see you tomorrow.